if I have a low grade, what is the worst mistake that I can make in my application?
It is not going to help you if you try to explain or justify why you get a lower grade in your undergrad. Okay, they're not going to believe that. Yeah, so it's better for you to just let what happened happen and just focus on writing something that will actually show who you are instead of dwelling in your past, instead of talking about the mistake you did in your school. My name is Hengki. I come from Indonesia. Currently, I'm a third year PhD student at University of Glasgow, where I'm doing research in forensic linguistics, and I look at the language of the law in my country, Indonesia. I am sponsored by the Indonesian government, especially the Ministry of Education, for my study here. Before my stay in Glasgow, I took my master degree at Cardiff University like six years ago, where I was sponsored by the Indonesian Ministry of Finance. Okay, so that's my background. And over the past 5 years, besides teaching at the university in my country, I'm also helping more Indonesian students who aspire to pursue postgraduate studies abroad, especially those who are interested in doing that in the UK, because I come from the UK. So I help them to apply for master program here and also I think in over 10 countries, including UK. And not only that, I also help them in securing funding from for their studies. And that includes like Chevening, the scholarship from the British government, and also some other prominent scholarship names like Fulbright to USA, and also Australian awards to Australia.
So the scholarship world is sometimes can be a very confusing world, and people can find it so difficult to make applications for various scholarships. So where do one get started when they're applying for scholarships?
Okay, I think there are two processes that we need to consider for pursuing a postgraduate degree abroad with a scholarship. And sometimes these two processes have to be, you have to pursue those steps differently, or sometimes you can do it together. So, for example, you need to apply to the university first, and after that, you apply to the scholarship. Okay, so there are two different processes, but sometimes it's also possible for you to apply for the scholarship first. Okay, so it all depends on the requirements of the scholarship that you want to apply. Okay, so the first thing that you need to be aware of is to find the scholarship that will allow you to study in the countries that you want. Okay, so after deciding where to study, you need to be aware of different scholarship scheme available to study in those countries. And after that, you will read the requirements, and maybe you will apply to the scholarship first, or you will apply for a program in a certain university first.
So when we are speaking about applications here, let's focus on the masters first before we can even digress further to a PhD. So what are these common documents that we get to submit when you are applying for scholarships? Because I know each scholarship has unique requirements, right? But we have a general umbrella of documents that we may mostly be required to submit. So
Yes.
in your opinion, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I think one of the most common documents to be submitted for a scholarship application includes a scholarship essays, and also you need to have like English proficiency test certificate if you were not studying using English in your undergrad. Okay, I think those are two of the most difficult requirements to meet. There are other documents that scholarship usually also requires, for example, like your academic transcript, or academic certificate. But I think if you have graduated from your undergrad, you must have those documents, right? So the scholarship essays and also English proficiency test certificate, I think, are some of the most complicated requirements.
So somebody probably clicked this link or this video because there is some questions they want to get about their grades. And there are a lot of misconceptions going around, especially that you must have a first class or you must have a 4.4 or 5 out of 5 CGPA, right?
Yes.
I think that's not right. That's not true, at least for most of the scholarships, because there are some actually that require you to strictly have the requirement. Now, do you think this is a misconception or that's a fact that scholarships tend to favor people with higher grades?
Allow me to interrupt this conversation and bring something to your attention. Since we launched this podcast a few months ago, we've had over 50,000 people watching our episodes, which we are very thankful for, and over 12,000 hours. However, we are currently trying to build our audience so that we can get the leverage to invite more guests to our podcast and we can continue bringing more insights. As you can see in one of these sites, and I bet that's here, at least 80.7% of the people watching our podcasts are not subscribers to this channel. And what we are currently focusing on is building our audience. So I'm requesting that if you may like to support us, if you like what we are sharing, you support our channel by clicking that subscribe button so that we can grow. Our promise is to continue bringing you strong guests with more insights so that we can bring these conversations where you are.
Not really, because I think there are a lot of things that scholarship committee is looking for in their applicants, right? Yes, some of the scholarship require like excellent academic record, but most of the scholarship don't. Most of them are looking for people usually with a passion in doing something, and it can be anything. So if you are a person, for example, who have dedicated your life to education, or maybe you are an activist, environmental activist, who spend years working on a job that protect the environment or championing the sustainability of the environment. It is this kind of characteristic that allows you sometimes to stand out among the other scholarship applicants. So I have quite a lot of students with lower second class degrees, and they might not have a kind of really good academics. That they have a lot of, for example, C grades in their undergraduate courses, but because of their work experience and also professional experience, in fact, they are able to apply to many scholarships and even secure more than one scholarship just because of the strength of their experience, especially in working. So if you have like lower second class degree, you need to make sure that you have a strength in another things, okay? So you need to demonstrate that you have the professional experience that show that you are a potential student, even if you might not have a first degree in your undergrad.
So how am I going to present myself in a way that will make me an ideal candidate? And what avenues do I have in the application so that I can present myself in this way, so that I can show my strengths besides just the grades and what is on the transcript?
Okay, I think the way that the scholarship committee is looking for individuals is usually when they look at your personal statement or scholarship essay that you submit, and also sometimes your CV. Okay, so these are two documents that you really need to pay attention to because they play a very big role in your scholarship applications. So the way that you want to present yourself is, I think you need to have like a consistent theme within your documents. So for example, if you are an activist, that means you need to design your CV and also your content in the personal statement in a way that demonstrate your consistency in doing that. So they need to read about your history That means how your education connect with your professional experience and how they will connect to your future plan. So having a consistent theme in CV and also in personal statement, I think that's the key criteria that helps students, my students usually, to secure scholarship wherever they are.
So I want to stand out. And I know I'm going to, let's call it compete, for lack of a better word, with people who have strong, very strong grades. But I want also to use what I have, and I know you are going to help me get some few examples to bring out those strengths very clearly so that I can at least substitute for the lower grades. And as you mentioned, this can be done on your personal statement and such. Now, assuming first, so I'm going to ask you two questions, then you can help me see how we're going to frame this. The first question is, assuming I'm asked to comment about my results and my grades and how they prepare me for the next level, how am I going to do this? And then secondly, then how am I going to stand out given the above information?
Okay. So when you don't have a very good grade in your undergrad, I think the way that you present yourself in the scholarship essays is try to provide explanations and focus your content on what you were doing in your undergrads. Okay. So you need to focus, for example, on your non-academic activities and achievement instead of your grades. Okay. Because if you're talking about grades, the scholarship committees can just simply look at your academic transcript and they can see your score, your grades. So I think when you are writing personal statement, it is more important to create a narrative, a story about your school activities and also maybe about your internship or professional experience. So don't talk about your lower grades in the personal statement. Instead, you need to focus on writing about activities, about things that you are passionate about, that you have been consistently doing, even since you are doing your undergrad. So those are the key to stand out in the application.
I would still use that same format because I know it is sometimes we have this tendency or weakness of dwelling so much on our shortcomings than
Yes.
focusing on the strengths that we do
Mm.
have. And
Yes.
If you know this is your weakness, don't waste too many words justifying that weakness. How about
Yes.
you show what you actually have, right?
Yes.
But then
That's right.
on that line, there are also people or individuals who may want to transition directly to a PhD. Do you think that is possible to move from a bachelor? Is it even possible for one to move from a bachelor's to a PhD?
That's really possible. Okay.
Under what
So
circumstances?
yeah, so there are a lot of programs in the UK that allows you to pursue PhD directly from bachelor degree. But I think the requirement is, I think, quite demanding. Okay. So if you have like lower degree, that might be a challenge. I'm not saying that it is impossible for you to pursue a PhD with a lower degree, okay? But usually the university or the programs are looking for individuals with strong academic performance, okay? So if your academic performance is not that good, you need to make sure that you have strength in other documents that you submit. And this usually includes research proposal, and also research statement. These are two documents that you can polish and that you can write in a way that will make you stand out, even if, for example, you can't change your grade. Okay, so it is still possible, but some of my friends that I know that pursue PhD directly from bachelor degree, usually they have like strong academic performance. Okay, so that's one thing to consider, but it is possible to do that from bachelor degree.
If I have a low grade, what is the worst mistake that I can make in my application?
It is not going to help you if you try to explain or justify why you get lower grade in your undergrad. Okay, they're not going to believe that. Yeah, so it's better for you to just let what happened happen and just focus on writing something that will actually show who you are instead of dwelling in your past, instead of talking about the mistake that you did in your school.
Yeah, and actually it goes along with something like chevening. Right? Chevening gives you an opportunity to discuss at least in 4 essays.
Yes.
And I'm struggling to remember. Is there really an essay that tells you to talk about your grades? None, right?
No.
So it means, in as much as they consider, but it's
Yeah.
a secondary consideration, right?
Yes.
If you can bring something really, really strong out of your application, you can still
Yes.
get this scholarship.
Yes.
But at least one that I'm sure of is something like Erasmus. I'm 100% sure I've met a lot of people with that 2.2 who have gone through this process and gotten a
Yes.
credit with grades. Now, does this also apply to research-based degrees? So when we talk about research-based degrees, we are talking about, in the UK here, for example, we have a master's a taught master's and then a
Yes.
master's by research.
Yes.
So do you think I'm going to be viewed differently when I'm applying to a taught master's vis-a-vis a research master's when I'm dealing with something that may be hindered by grades?
I think it doesn't matter whether you do master by coursework or master by research. The only difference is in the research proposal that you are going to write. Because when you do master by coursework, you don't need to write a research proposal. But if you want to pursue the research pathway, then you need to make one. And I think the key challenge is how to write a strong proposal. And secondly, also how to convince your prospective supervisor to admit you as a student. So I think the second one is far more challenging. Okay. I can write, for example, a convincing research proposal in like 1 to 2 months, but finding the right professors to supervise your study is not an easy thing. Even I myself had to spend like 2 months trying to convince the supervisors to take me as a student. So my professors who supervise my PhD today is the last person that I contacted during my PhD application process. So before them, I have reached to like 6 professors in different universities like Warwick, Manchester, Edinburgh, everywhere. And all of them did not accept my application for various reasons. So I think writing a convincing proposal and also finding the supervisors is the key to doing the master by research pathway.
And now that we're just so close to a PhD because a research-based master's and a PhD are not so different.
Yes.
Like not by content, but at least by the application process.
Yes.
Now, how do I approach a supervisor? And we could reframe it this way: what process do I follow so that I can get into a research-based degree?
Okay. Universities usually have different procedures if you want to apply for a PhD position within the university. Some of the universities sometimes ask you to directly apply formally to the university through their application portal. Some of them allows you to contact the prospective supervisors. So the first thing that you need to do is really to pay attention to the instruction from the university website. Do they tell you to contact the supervisor first, or do they want you to apply to the university first? So I think that's the first one. If you already know the procedure, then you can start to work on your requirements. For example, University of Glasgow usually allows the students to contact the prospective supervisor first. And because of that, I think there are 2 documents that you need to prepare based on my own experience. The first is short research proposals, usually ranging from 2 to 3,000 words. And then you will have your CV. So I always advise my student to attach these 2 documents when you are sending emails to university supervisors. Okay. So after that, The process would look like, for example, having the interview with the prospective supervisor, and then usually you will apply to the university after the supervisor has agreed to supervise you.
I'm conflicting between two concepts, and this usually relates to PhDs. There's something called a research project or a studentship.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a supervisor-led studentship or project, and there's a student-led project. So let's just call one a studentship, right? So what do we mean when we say you are applying to a project that has been advertised, or you're coming up with your own project to the university? Where does the difference lie?
Yeah, the difference will be in the requirements usually. So if the university or the professor advertise a certain project, there are two possibilities, as you said, right? The university or professors might require you to write a proposal aligning with the theme of the project, or they might have a project that has been designed by the professor. So some of my friends take the first scheme. So for example, they apply to the studentship and they write the proposal. And before they apply, usually they send the proposal to the professors to get admission from kind of letter of approval from the university professors. But if the project has been prepared by the professors, then you don't write a research proposal, but you write a research statement usually. That is an essay in which you demonstrate why you are a student or a candidate that has what the studentship is looking for. Okay, so usually you write about your past research project or your research experience or sometimes your publications. Okay, so you just demonstrate to the professors that you have the skills and knowledge that are necessary to do the project. You don't write the research proposal.
These are problems that most people face. And I'm sure somebody has listened to you, and by now they know that it is a good idea if at least they considered joining your sessions. It can be very helpful. Now, I don't know how I'm going to be part of your network so that I can learn more. Please advise me.
Okay, so in my LinkedIn profile, I usually make a contents nearly every day telling my audience about potential scholarship schemes that are currently opening, and also sometimes provide tips in making the application so that their chance of securing the scholarship is higher. So if you are interested, for example, having me to help you review your documents, preparing yourself for interview process, for example, you can contact me through my LinkedIn, or you can just email me. I put my email in the description page of my LinkedIn that everyone can access. Usually within like 6 months, I just accept like 5 to 10 people only according to my time availability.
That is very clear. And in case you want to pursue that path, just check the description of this video. There's a link to his LinkedIn.
Yes.
You will get to contact him more. Now, there's one very critical part in the application process, and this part is called an interview. It is very possible for one to write all the nice documents and essays, and then come and blow it at the interview stage, right? I don't know if you've had these experiences before, but your interview can just decide if you're going ahead or not, and just like that. So today, somebody has been invited for an interview, or they will be invited for an interview soon, and they'll come back to check this video. Now, what does this person need to know in anticipation for the interview?
The interview, are you talking about PhD or master's applications?
More or less, let's just focus on the master's part, because I know the master's students tend to have it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I really agree with what you said. Sometimes you can have people to help you write a very convincing essays and prepare documents that will make you stand out in the first stage of applications. all right? But interview is really kind of the deciding factors that will determine whether you will get a scholarship or not. Okay. So I think in anticipation of this very important process, you really need to spend like a couple of times doing mock-up interview, especially if you have like mentors that will help you to do that. Okay. So for example, nearly every year in the last 4 years, every time my student was shortlisted for chevening interview, I always ask them to have at least 5 times mock-up interview sessions so that we can really prepare for any possible questions that they will face. So the questions in the interview can really come from any documents that you submit. So they might ask you about the content of your personal statement or scholarship essay. They might ask you about the CV and the experience that you had in your school before. They might ask about your professional experience. And they might also ask you about how the study that you are planning to pursue are related to your future goal. So there can be very different questions. And I think you need a couple of sessions to prepare you for that so that you can come up with the best possible answer to any potential questions that you will face.
So, assuming I get 2 offers, not actually 2, 3, how do I decide which is the best offer, assuming other factors kept constant? There are things at the granular level, at an individual level, but there are also things at the superficial level that one should consider before they be like, this is a good scholarship, this is not. So if you received 3 scholarships today, what would you be looking for so that you decide which one to go ahead with?
Some scholarship come up with the requirements that after completing your study, you need to return to your home country and contribute to the development of your country. And this is scholarship that I have at the moment. So after my PhD, I will go to Indonesia and apply what I have learned here. So I think this is the first considerations. Are you planning to, for example, stay for a couple of years in your country destinations? Or are you going to come back to your country and pursue a career there? So if you have, for example, chevening scholarship, and also you have like Swedish Institute scholarship from Swedish government, for example, they have different requirements. Okay, so chevening requires you to go back to your country after the study, but Swedish government or Swedish scholarship don't. So that's the first consideration. The second, I think, that is also important is the coverage of the scholarship, how much you get from each of the scholarship, and whether you are able to, for example, compensate if those scholarship and the amount that you get cannot fully satisfy your daily needs. So the amount or the extent of the coverage is also important consideration. I think these are the consideration that I pay attention and also ask my student to pay attention first when you have secure 2 or more scholarship.
Thank you. And I think that has been a very insightful session. People who have listened to this conversation for the past 30 minutes are truly people who are inspired and people who want to apply for scholarships. Maybe in their country, be it top-up scholarships. We have top-up scholarships.
Yes.
Be it fully funded scholarships. But sometimes they may not find an ideal scholarship that accepts them at all. I've had somebody who says, I've applied for scholarships for 5, 6 years, 7 years, but I still want to do my advanced studies. So is there an alternative way somebody can pursue further studies without actually having to take these fully funded scholarships?
Yeah, you can actually do a self-funded study, but I know from if we are coming for the third world country, it's not easy to do the study and to pay a large amount of fees for that study. Okay, so I think there are a couple of alternatives. One, if it is possible, you might go with the student loan, but I'm not really familiar with this concept of student loan in the UK especially. But I know, for example, someone who do a master degree at Harvard. She is a very talented girl with a lot of achievement, also excellent academic performance. But somehow after securing admission to Harvard, she did not secure any scholarship. So she continued with the master's education with student loan scheme. I think that's one of the alternatives you can try, and you can Google for that information if you are interested. And secondly, you might want to consider working part-time for helping you to meet your daily need during your study. So that's what a lot of students, as you know, in the UK do to fund their study. Many of them can work up to 20 hours a week to have some income and then to alleviate the financial burden from studying overseas. So either you take student loan or maybe you are working part-time during your study to fund your study.
So guys, explore your options. And as you explore these options, think carefully about what you want to do during and after those studies so that you know if these options you're going to explore.
Yes.
Remember, what we are offering here is general advice, and this is in no way specifically telling you what to do. So it's up to you to analyze which situation works best for you before you take the next step, right?
Yes.
Now, this applicant would really want to hear something from you. What would you say to this applicant who is currently thinking about making an application? They have a 2.2, or maybe they have a second class upper division that is not close to the first class. You know, we have a 2.2 that is not very strong. Even we may also be having somebody who actually has a second class upper division who was also listening to this conversation, even the first class. So, what would you tell this kind of an applicant?
Very few scholarship are paying attention to your academic performance only. Okay, most of them look for individuals that have more than just great scores, because if we have like great scores, we are not the ones. Other applicants from different countries also have good scores. So I think relying on scores is simply not enough in scholarship applications. So I think if you are about to apply for a scholarship, you really need to look at the ideal candidate that they are looking for, because different scholarship are looking for different people. So for example, Chevening are looking for individuals with strong leadership and networking skills. So if you just graduate from your undergrad, you do not have a lot of working experience. So you need to think twice before applying for Chevening, because they are really selective in choosing people for the scholarship. They really look out for the best applicants with strong networking and leadership skills. But if you are looking for different scholarship, sometimes they are looking at different aspects. So for example, I know Fulbright is looking for people who have strong academic performance as well as having good community services activities. So if you just finish your undergraduate, you might qualify for Fulbright, because I know one of my juniors, he got a Fulbright scholarship in the US just like less than a year after completing his undergrad, because he has very strong academic and non-academic achievement in their studies, even if he has not have like long working experience. So try to really study what the ideal candidate that those scholarship are looking for. So you don't just apply for any scholarship and hoping that you get selected. You need to be strategic. You need to choose the scholarship that really fit your profile.
Very clear. If I want to reach you, I know I can reach you on LinkedIn. You've also mentioned that I can also contact you via email. Is there any other platform that you are available?
No, at the moment. Okay. Maybe in a couple of years after completing my PhD, I'm looking for other alternatives to help people with their scholarship applications. I might write a book later, that's in my plan, that will help the students to understand the complicated process of scholarship application, and also hope to write about the scholarship landscapes in different countries, that I hope people will get inspired and they will be aware of different opportunities that exist in the world. Okay, so there are really like a lot of scholarships available in the world. I think if you really want to get one, you will get one, because different scholarship are looking for different people. Okay, and there are hundreds and even thousands of them. I know. Okay, and I think in the future I might provide like these different services, but at the moment, yeah, the only way that I can help people is just through my LinkedIn posts, and also like limited slots for professional consultancy.
So just check the description of this video and you'll get all the information you need to contact him. So that was Hengki Agus Rifa'i, and this is the Management Diary. Your host today was Omae Joseph, and until we meet again in the next episode, bye-bye.
Bye.